Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining me for another episode. Today, we are continuing with our summer series, and we will be talking about Tunis, La Goulet, Tunisia, and Pozzallo, Italy, as well as our adventures on our cruise those couple of days. So I'm glad you could join us. If you have not listened to the rest of the summer series, go back and listen. We've already been in France and Spain, and now we are entering Tunisia and then Italy. Day 7 of our trip in Tunis, La Goulet, Tunisia. The weather was going to be hot. It was going to be 93 degrees and fill every bit of those degrees. And the thing is, it didn't get cold or cool at night either. So it was very, very humid. So for us, although it looked beautiful from the dock, it did not seem like something that I was going to be anxious to do. I had read up a little bit about Tunisia, and the places that I would have wanted to see would have required taking one of the excursions. And honestly, I thought this would be a good day to make it a boat day, a cruise day. So sometimes you just need to have that day on the ship where you just unwind and relax. And we had had one early on, but this is day 7 of our cruise and day 9 or 10, day 10 of our vacation. So we're needing a little break. And I had kind of foreshadowed that this might happen and scheduled a spa day for myself in the afternoon, knowing that later on in the evening, we had our Europa wine and a wine pairing dinner. And so I was excited to just have a relaxed day. Also, we were told that in order to disembark, we would have to attend a disembarkation interview at a particular place on the ship. And honestly, that didn't sound appealing to me. Standing in line, waiting to be interviewed by local authorities to be able to set foot in their country, which is understandable, but just didn't seem as appealing as, like, I don't know, hanging out by the pool or, having cocktails up in the front of the ship, watching the gorgeousness of the day from the air conditioning. It just did not seem like what I wanted to do. So we decided to make it a ship day, and I was perfectly happy with that. But we did have a couple of friends that shared a couple of stories, and I'll share them with you. Before I do, let me tell you a little bit about Tunis, La Goulet, Tunisia. Tunis comes across as little more than a large country town. The city center is compact and easy to navigate, with almost everything important to visitors within the Medina and the compact Ville Nouvelle. Carthage, located 8.6 miles northeast of Tunis, was founded by the Phoenicians and is home of Hannibal Carthage, which was one of the greatest cities of the ancient world. So to this day, the site retains natural splendor with lush vegetation and superb views over the Gulf. The highlights of this city are the museum, an excavated quarter atop Bursa Hill, the Antonine Baths, the Punic Ports, the Roman Amphitheater, and the Sanctuary of Tophet. We did not encounter any of these places. From what I am told, it is a beautiful place to view the gorgeous mosaics on the lovely whitewashed village of Sidi Bou Said. And that's perched above a high cliff on the sea. There's charming cobbled streets and flower-filled courtyards and ornate windows. And from what I'm told, you don't get to see a lot of this from visiting at a port entrance. So what do they eat? Well, Tunisian food is well prepared and delicious and are cooked with things such as olive oil spiced with anise seed, coriander, cumin, caraway, cinnamon, or saffron, and flavored with mint, orange blossoms, or rosewater. They have some spicy local dishes, usually made with lamb, and some sweet desserts. And of course, they have national specialties. These include their dorado, which is a bream, and then couscous, which is a fish dish, and then bric-a-brac, alouf, which is an egg and a tasty filling fried in an envelope of pastry. So nobody came back bragging about the cuisine. And as far as I heard, we had some friends that thought it was cool. They were able to take a picture with the camel. It was the first time that Oceana Cruises stopped by this particular port. So the locals, I'm sure, were anxious to impress, and who wouldn't want to have, traveling and tourist traffic frequent your city and therefore, help out the local economy. So apparently, as you got off, it was very welcoming and there were some pretty things to look at. But there wasn't a ton to do once you went into the city. And what I did here is that you can shop looking for, things such as jewelry, caftans, inlaid boxes, ornate trinkets, carpets. And I heard a story. I don't remember if I heard this at Martini's or at dinner somewhere, but someone who was not part of our group had gone into town, and apparently it was a lady or two ladies. The details were sketchy because I was having another conversation and listening to this story at the same time. But essentially what happened was this lady was going to buy a carpet from a gentleman that was the store owner, and she engaged in negotiations. And apparently, as a woman, you should not negotiate directly with an owner. I don't know if this is 100% true. All I know is that this story tells me I wouldn't do it. This lady went on to try to negotiate the price, and they were getting the gentleman was getting very aggressive with her, and I guess the door to the shop was closed, and she was kind of feeling like she couldn't leave until she purchased this carpet. And then once she reached a price, the guy tells her that now she has to negotiate with her brother or her cousin or something, and out comes this other guy, and the negotiation started all over again. So the lesson is a negotiation is not complete unless you negotiate with, I guess, as many people as they feel you need to in order to arrive at a agreement. And the other lesson is that a woman should not try to negotiate alone in a shop with a man, at least not in this port city of Tunis La Goulet. So from what I understand, that was the one downside. The upside was it was very beautiful. It was, there were a lot of very friendly, welcoming people as well. So I will leave it there. We decided to stay on board and sleep in. It was lovely. We had gotten into the habit of ordering tea when we got into the stateroom in the evening, and I would close up our evening with having a nice cup of tea and relaxing, watching a little TV, and maybe watching the snippet that they would show each evening of where we were going the next day with the information about the port of the following day. And so this particular evening was no exception, but we had also ordered and kind of gotten into the habit of ordering something light for breakfast, but for sure making sure that we had coffee delivered every morning. And so you could fill out this room service thing, much like you do in a hotel, and put it on your door. It was really cool the evening that we had gotten in. I had a lovely reminder about my reservation. And the other thing that was really cool is that we went through several different time zones. So when you got in for the evening, even though we all have telephones that generally adjust automatically, there would be a little card that would tell you, set your clocks forward an hour, or we're losing an hour today, or whatever. And so that was handy because it turns out some of the people that we were traveling with, their phones didn't automatically reset, and there was a little bit of confusion about what time it was from time to time. So for me, this was a nice little, gentle reminder to make sure that I double checked the time that was on the television versus the time that was on my phone, and therefore I could be on time. Well, we had the little reminder about the time change. I had a cute little invitation to my spa treatment. And then we had a lovely invitation from the Europa group about our impending wine pairing dinner that was to be held at Toscana the Italian specialty restaurant the following evening. So we put up our breakfast request, and we slept in, and we woke up for the first time, honestly, since we had been on the cruise, without any sense of having to be anywhere at any particular time. And this time we ordered a full breakfast. So we got up and we enjoyed. We looked at the pretty dock from the port. The view was pretty, but nothing that I was like, oh no, I'm missing out. At least not really. I mean, I guess if I have to be honest, I really did want to say that I stepped foot on Africa, but it just wasn't meant to be, man. And so I was okay with it. I took some pictures and moved on with my life. We had a very quiet, uneventful morning, and then we headed off to kind of walk around the boat, and my goodness, it was quiet. Apparently, more people showed up for the disembarkation interview than I thought would have, and the ship was relatively empty. For us, it was perfect. This meant we were going to have a pool day, and then I would go to the spa, relax a little bit, and then head over to the dinner for Europa. And I was perfectly happy with how my day was shaping up. So we headed out to the pool. We met up with friends. We relaxed. It was quite uneventful. There was one issue that I had, and it didn't make sense to me. Where the pool is situated is very much near the spa, which is the wellness center. So it stands to reason that we would keep things all well and healthy and cool. Can somebody please tell me why the smoking section was right outside of the doors to the spa? It made absolutely no sense, and also made for secondhand residual smoke, including that of cigars, coming right towards people lounging in the perimeter area of the pool. So this was something that didn't make a lot of sense to me. It seems to me like they could have set up an area on the other side where there weren't people resting and relaxing and lounging. And this is from a former smoker who I try not to be one of those hypocritical former smokers that are constantly, turning their nose up at smoke. But it was pretty blatant and it was pretty bizarre. It just didn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. Anyhow, we went out by the pool. We relaxed. At one point, we walked over to the little cafe that they have to kind of take a little break from the sun, but also to have some lunch. I think this was the day that I had a Kobe burger, which was pretty good, and a salad. It was lovely, relaxing, and just what the doctor ordered for that day. So I had gotten ready and brought all that I needed to walk straight to the spa, which was conveniently located right 4 feet away from where I was lounging. So I showed up a little bit early so that I could shower off and relax a little in the steam room. And today I was to have a seaweed wrap combination therapeutic massage. So this was about a 2-hour treatment, if I remember correctly. And I'll tell you, it was amazing. I got to hang out with my girl Anata again. She was my massage therapist. She greeted me in the locker room and told me that since she had already done a massage on me, she knew exactly what I needed, and therefore we would be able to spend our time more effectively. So I was really excited about this. And when I walked into the treatment room, I noticed that there was, for lack of a better word, a tinfoil blanket. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about, laying out on the treatment table. And I was to disrobe and lay on that. And sure enough, a few minutes later, Anata comes in and explains that she is going to first start off by dry brushing my body, which if you've never had a dry brush prior to a massage treatment is something different. It's kind of invigorating / not comfortable / it's going to do something, so you tolerate it. You can tell that it's scuffing off dead skin, and she explains that the reason she does that is so that all of the products that she uses will have a chance to seep into the body more effectively, therefore giving us a more thorough and therapeutic massage. So I was all for all of that. And in this case, she was going to put in a therapeutic seaweed that helps remove the toxins from my body. And that was going to be brushed all over me. So we got started on that part of the treatment, and she took this, mask looking thing and brushed it all over my body, including and up to my neck, but not my face, and not my feet. And as she did that, I told her, I kind of struggle a little with claustrophobia, so I don't know how I feel about being wrapped in this thing. She had explained I needed to stay in there for 20 to 30 minutes, and that wasn't sounding very relaxing to me. But she told me, don't worry, I won't wrap it tight. You won't feel claustrophobic. And she didn't, and I didn't. So it was lovely. While I was wrapped, she proceeded to give me a phenomenal neck and head massage and a foot massage for the entirety of the 30 minutes. I was then instructed to head into the shower, which was located right there in the treatment room, and shower off the seaweed mask stuff. And that was a little bit of an effort. I'm not going to lie. It took more time than I wanted it to, because as soon as I got done, I had a 90-minute full body therapeutic massage to look forward to. So I was trying to get it off as quickly as I could, as to not lose 1 second of my 90-minute massage. Well, I did eventually get it all off and headed right on back to the massage table, whereby Anata met me and started the magic that is her fingers. Luckily, by this time, she knew that I wasn't much of a chatty person when it came to massage time. So she let me lean into the quiet and just went to work. When I tell you, she added a complimentary hot stone massage, which I wasn't sure I wanted until she started using it, and it really was a lovely touch. She spent an awful lot of time on what she referred to as the crunchy muscles on my legs. I guess crunchy muscles is what led to the leg cramps that I was having. I couldn't figure out what was going on, and I was drinking copious amounts of water and IV liquid because I kept getting leg cramps. I mean, severe leg cramps to the point where you could see that things weren't looking good on my legs, and I was not comfortable. So I thought I was doing all of the right things by hydrating. Anata said it was the fact that my muscles were so tight and crunchy, I guess is the term they use, that it was causing my ligaments to try to wrap around them to compensate, and that was causing my leg cramps. So she spent an inordinate amount of time trying to relax the muscles around my calves and my legs, but eventually did get to work on my shoulders and my neck, and ran out of time when it came time to work on the upper neck. But she told me that she would let my next therapist know what I needed and where she had left off. Why? Because she had gone over the 90 minutes, and Amanda, who was waiting to give me a facial in the other room, would probably be pretty upset with her if she threw her off schedule. So she said, I'll let Amanda know where I left off. She'll take over during your facial. And threw my robe back on. And sure enough, Amanda was standing right outside the door waiting for me and led me into her headquarters, which was a lovely, quiet, dark room. And it was exactly what I needed. I had noodled my way over to her chair to begin with. And so the idea of being chatty or, interactional during this treatment was not what I was looking forward to. Plus, I realized at that moment that I had cut it kind of close, and I was barely going to have enough time to complete this treatment, run back to the stateroom, have a quick shower, and get dressed for the wine pairing dinner, which it seemed like everybody was going to get dressed up just a little bit more than they had for any other dinner. So I did not want to lose the state of relaxation my mind was in, but I also wanted to take advantage of the next 50 minutes to just decompress. I could not have been given a better person for this task. Amanda was soft-spoken, sweet, thorough, very, very much able to read what you were giving. That's not to say she was off-putting or shy or did not interact. She was very much all of those things, but she simply very quickly asked me what my skincare routine was and then told me to relax, and she would let me know when the treatment was over. And honestly, it was so relaxing that I fell asleep. I've fallen asleep before during massages, but I found it so unusual that I was able to fall asleep during a facial where somebody's messing with my face. So shortly after, it felt like a few minutes, I got a tap on the shoulder and I was told that she was all done. And I was so thrilled to have the compliment of all compliments. Whereas over on the spa side, I was trying to be sold anything and everything for my crunchy muscles, including the $299 seaweed wrap, which, by the way, I did not buy. Amanda told me, whatever it is, your skincare routine that you told me at the beginning, which are 3 simple steps, keep doing it. You don't need to do anything more. You have great skin. And she did not try to sell me a single solitary thing. I was flattered, appreciated it so very much, and, was able to walk away with a little spring in my step because I thought, hey, I'm doing something right when it comes to my skincare. So I did walk away, but not very casually, because looking at my watch, I had exactly 30 minutes to get ready and report to Martini's if I wanted a chance of pre-gaming. Otherwise, I was going to have to shuffle my way to the front of the line where I'm sure my girl Susan was going to be standing waiting to get the best seat in the house. And this day we had quite a large group. So the larger the group, the more kind of assertive you had to be in the line because there were very limited tables. So I think I may have mentioned before that there were very few 8-top and 10-top tables at the specialty restaurants. And today it becomes a big issue. And I'll get into it in a minute. But first, I came back to the stateroom to find my husband in a state of ultimate relaxation, having enjoyed a siesta, a poke bowl from room service, and he was all ready to go for our dinner. I jumped in the shower, threw on a dress, threw on my favorite funky shoes. I'll post a picture. These shoes are everything, you guys. I found them on clearance at Macy's, and I had to buy them. They're nothing like anything I would ever wear, but they were everything I needed for this cruise. And today was the perfect day to wear these shoes. So threw on a cute little white sundress, my funky cool shoes, no makeup because I had just had a facial, and ran down to dinner. Was able to stop by Martini's, and by this time I had all but abandoned the list and ordered my dirty martini. If I was lucky, I would get a blue cheese olive. If they were out of it, I would get extra olives, and carried my martini over to dinner, where sure enough, my girl Susan was heading up the front of the line just about. And I was told that there were going to be 9 of us for dinner this evening. And so we needed a 10-top. Well, we get to the front of the line and we're told that we may not be able to sit together because there are only 2 10-tops, and the 10-top that we are requesting, and because it's a dinner for our group, there are 102 seats and there are 102 people expected. Therefore, they needed to fill every seat. So somebody in our group said, that's no problem. There's 9 of us. If you need to fill the 10th seat, no big deal. So we go sit down and we get a beautiful table where we could watch as we leave the port. And this was kind of an early port day. I believe we left at like 4 p.m., something like that. And so this is the day before the 4th of July, and everybody is excited about this wine pairing dinner. Everybody was dressed up just a little bit more and had their hair curled just a little bit tighter. So I was right about that, and I'm glad I wore my funky shoes because I felt just a little bit cuter. But we all sat down, and I sat next to Terry on my left and Ben on my right. And then there was an empty seat to the right of Ben. And then Greg was sitting on the other side of the empty seat. And then Nancy, and so on and so forth around the table for the rest of our group. So this was a lovely, lovely place. The place is called Toscana. It is an Italian restaurant, obviously. And they had beautiful dishes. Versace dishes, which if you look up online, the only place I could find them was on eBay, and they are $154 each. They are called Tresores de la Mer, and they were this gorgeous blue pattern. I personally preferred the Versace dishes over at the Polo Grill, but these were a very close second. And we had these cute little bowls that we eventually found out were for as we were seated, we immediately got a sommelier over who served, I believe, the house wine to start. And then over comes this lovely lady with a little cart that contained gorgeous different flavors and varieties of olive oil and balsamic vinegars. So we got to choose whatever we wanted poured in our little bowl, and out came the bread for dipping. And oh my goodness, was I in heaven. I was really hungry because this day we had indeed kind of just picked a little bit. And I really hadn't eaten much except part of the burger at lunch and the salad. So I was really excited and looking forward to this dinner anyway, because everybody had spoken very highly about the food at Toscana. So the Italian wine pairing dinner was going to be 3 different wines. And Dr. Doug explained to us that this was not going to be like the wine class that we had taken a few days before. In fact, this was just a dinner. He was going to introduce the 3 wines and then just let us enjoy. And that's what he did. I do believe we all took pictures of the wine. I'm so sorry to say I don't have them all right now, but I am going to be interviewing Dr. Doug, and we'll rehash all of this, and we'll talk about the wines that he sampled and that we were able to have. It was a lovely evening. I was all about the food. I had this lovely shrimp appetizer that had this tomato saucy kind of lovely drizzle, along with a beautiful olive oil and some basil. It was just lovely. A lot of people had different kinds of appetizers. I believe there was a calamari appetizer that somebody ordered. And honestly, everything that came to the table looked fabulous. So at these restaurants, you were able to order a appetizer / starter, a salad or a soup, or a salad and a soup, and then your entree and any sides, and then a dessert. And so many people did that. And in this case, because it was a pairing dinner with Europa Group, we weren't given access to the entire menu at Toscana. And I was kind of disappointed about that. I thought that would be an option for us, but it makes sense. They were trying to serve 100 and something people all in one service. So it would have been kind of difficult to accommodate their full menu. So they narrowed it down to a few of the choices, and they were nice choices. I believe that I ordered the Branzino, and that was beautifully plated. I'll post a picture on Instagram. And then Ben ordered the filet with his beautiful polenta, also gorgeously plated. And we are, enjoying we're toasting, we're having our first glass of wine from the pairing, and all of the sudden, a server walks over and accompanies somebody to fill the 10th seat. Who do you think it was? It was Patricia, you guys. And everybody just kind of gave everybody the side eye. And I saw the look on my friend's face across the table just drop. She's the one who he had been flirting with, she is the wife of the man that Patricia was flirting with at the pool. So imagine how frustrated she must have been when this lady comes and plops herself right next to her husband. But oh, wait for it. She was next to her husband, and on the other side was my husband. So my husband immediately shifts his chair to the left, and I kind of chuckled, leaned over to him and said, "Oh boy, this might get ugly," and went on with my happy face and my conversation with Terry, who was to my left. We're kind of chuckling, and it's not comfortable. It's a little awkward, but everybody's making the best of it and, says hello to Patricia. And so as soon as the attention shifts and people go back to their conversations, within a few minutes, my husband leans over and tells me that Patricia has already placed her hand on our friend's leg. No, not okay. So I just gave him the eye and said, well, I hope that doesn't happen on this side because that's not going to go over well. And by this time, I think we were at entrees. And so the entrees are served. We're on our second wine. And I'm kind of making the best of it. Everybody's making the best of it. My friend across the table had excused herself to go to the restroom. And so had Patricia gotten up to go say hi to somebody or something. For whatever reason, they both happened to be gone from the table at the same time. And I took the opportunity to tell my friend's husband that he could probably deflate the issue by not engaging with her so much and sitting there toasting with her. And he told me that with all due respect, he politely disagreed and instead didn't think it was nice to ignore her. So he was going to continue to talk to her. I had tried. Sorry, friend across the table. But so my friend comes back. She looked like she had lost her best friend. She wasn't speaking much, and that was not her normal behavior at dinner. Patricia comes back, and by this time she's a few glasses of wine in, so she's toasting to the right and toasting to the left. I'm talking to my friend, but I could see out of the side of my eye that she's getting kind of cozy and what have you. And at one point I look over and I see that she has a hold of my husband's right hand and is caressing his forearm up and down, kind of caressing his tattoos, trying to get him to tell her what the tattoos are all about. And I looked around my husband, looked her dead in the eye and said, "Excuse me, don't touch my husband." She was flabbergasted. She let go of his hand. He moved over even closer to me and kind of sat back in his seat. She put her hands over her head, shook her head, and mumbled under her breath, "Wow. Insecure." I confronted her and said, "Excuse me, I'm not insecure. You don't stand a chance with my husband. It's a matter of respect." She did not know what to do. And by this point, the entire table had gone quiet because everybody was aware of what I was doing. And whether they caught what was happening before it happened or not, they knew what was going on now, and everybody was tuned in. So she tried to compose herself and then comes up with the following cockamamie story. "It's because you guys are from the West Coast and I'm from the East Coast. And where I'm from, we are very touchy and very and you guys just don't." And I interrupted her and I told her, "It doesn't matter what coast you're from. It's a matter of class, and you don't touch somebody else's husband." I told her, went on to say, "There are a lot of other people who feel that way. They're just not willing to say it to you, and I am." And she kind of took a sat back in her seat. And my friend Terry said, "And you can stop talking now." And I turned around and kind of high-fived her under the table. And everybody just kind of stared at Patricia, who kind of shrunk into her seat, finished eating as quickly as she could, and then made her escape. But not before walking up to me, putting her hands on my shoulders, and telling me that if she offended me, she was very sorry. She didn't mean anything by it. I told her, "I accept your apology, but I don't approve of your behavior. Have a good evening." And that's how that ended. So that's the story of how Patricia got put in her place. And spoiler alert, by the end of the cruise, Patricia is no longer invited to travel with our group. So you could see that her behavior kind of caught on, and word about this, I'm just going to say it, this hoe got around the ship, and nobody wanted her back by the end of the cruise. So for me, it made for a great story, except that I became popular in a way I did not really want to become popular. And for the next few days, I had people high-fiving me and thanking me for confronting and putting this bitch in her place. Well, it needed to be done, folks, so you're welcome. And I was not about to let it detract from my delicious meal. So, of course, we went back, finished eating our dinner, enjoyed dessert. I think we even ordered coffee, and then we went to Martini's, and this was by far my favorite night at Martini's. Everybody was a little bit more than buzzed because of all of the wine we had imbibed upon at dinner, and we were not stopping. It was going to be a late night. Everybody was kumbayaing. We were all having a good time, and they had the entertainment for this evening was going to be the jazz band, and it was so good. Honestly, I found myself on more than one occasion completely tuned out of what was going on in our group. My head was facing the opposite direction. Excuse me, group, for giving you my back. This is how much I enjoyed this music. And I was recording the little quartet that was playing. The dude at the piano was doing most of the singing. We had the stand-up bass. We had a guitar player with a beautiful, just gorgeous, I don't know, what was it, a Fender? Was it an open? I don't know. I don't know guitars, but the sound was amazing. I wish I would have gone up and asked him, but that might have been too much. As it was, I was completely fanning out. And then my favorite of all favorite instruments, the saxophone. So the music they were playing was great. The voices were lovely. There was nothing wrong with the vibe at this moment. When I tell you, we were having a great time. People were hugging and laughing and telling stories and getting up and dancing. And we had just all kind of bonded into this big old group. And the funny thing is that we are a couple of months out almost from having returned from this cruise. And every single time I talk to someone who was on this cruise, they talk about how something happened and how this cruise was so magical that we can't forget, and we keep talking about it. So I felt the same way by this point in the cruise, but this night in particular, we all stayed up late, we partied, we had a good time. And I'm telling you, I would not have changed anything that occurred on this night, including the Patricia story, for anything in the world, because it made for the evening we had. We eventually made our way back to the room because the next day we were all going to be getting ready for Pozzallo, Italy. I was so excited. Remember, Italy, right? Gotta see Italy. Wanna see Italy. Can't wait till we get to Italy. Tomorrow, we're going to be in Italy. We're going to Pozzallo. It was going to be a cute little port town, and I'm going to get ready to tell you all about it. It was also 4th of July, but we're in Italy, so nobody cares. And I'm, by this moment, am by this point in time completely confused with what day it is back home, what's going on back home. Should I be saying happy 4th of July today? Was that yesterday? Is that tomorrow? Are they asleep now? Should I just give up? I'm going to be home in a few days. I had no idea. All I knew was I was having a great time, and tomorrow I was going to be able to go and see Italy. Well, let me tell you a little bit about Italy. It was day 8 and we docked at 10 a.m. So it was quite a haul from 4 o'clock the evening before to 10 a.m. this morning. And of course, that day we also had, I think, an hour time change. So we went back. We were going around the boot. So I'm guessing we lost an hour and then regained it because we came around the other side of the boot. If I'm being really honest, I haven't sat down and looked at a globe or a map in order to see if my theory plays out, but I'm going to stick to it. Let me tell you a little bit about Pozzallo. It was going to be a high of 89 and a low of 74. Nestled on the southern coast of Sicily, the port of Pozzallo is more than just a maritime hub. It's a charming seaside town that offers a delightful mix of history, sunshine, and authentic Italian life. Its origins date back to the Middle Ages, and it was a crucial shipping point for grain and other goods. The most iconic structure is the Torre Cabrera. It was built in the 15th century by the noble Cabrera family to defend against pirate attacks. Much like everywhere else in Europe, it plays true that all of the buildings, all of the houses, most of the towns are built into the hills so that they could see the enemy coming. Well, Pozzallo boasts one of the few blue flag beaches in Sicily, Pietre Nere Beach, known for its clean waters and golden sands. And you can hop on a ferry and be in Malta in no time. I did not know that. That might have been something I would have wanted to do had I known that. But this was, the late night before. So it was one of the nights that I didn't watch the video of what was coming the following day until the morning, which by then we kind of had our plan and we knew what we wanted to do. So there was probably going to be no quick ferry to Malta for this girl. But there were a couple of UNESCO listed towns, Modica and Ragusa. And they're famous for their Baroque architecture. And apparently they were just a short drive away. Well, we didn't have a car, so that wasn't going to happen for us. And then there was the Vendicari Nature Reserve to the east, which offered unspoiled beaches and wildlife. Now, from what I understand, it was a hotter than average summer, even though it is pretty much a very warm Mediterranean climate there year round. And then the Sicilian cuisine is really fresh seafood. Apparently there is a spaghetti ai ricci de mar, which is sea urchin pasta. Not for me, but sounds great if you love it. And grilled swordfish, which I would have had, but we made a morning visit, so I wasn't trying to have swordfish at brunch time. And then there was supposed to be cannoli. Well, this is a Friday, and so imagine when we arrive on this beautiful Ionian seaport, we pass through this kind of tunnel area heading off of the gangway into the port and onto where we were supposed to be waiting for these buses that were supposed to take us into town because you could not walk on this port. So for this particular port, you had to take one of these buses. And as far as we knew on board, that was our only option. Well, it was lovely. We got off and we were greeted by these beautifully dressed singers and dancers, which I have a short video of. And they were playing beautiful music. So I thought, this is going to be great. And I was really excited. We walked through and we walked right out to a line of people. It was probably about 15 to 20 people, and before long became about 80 people. Everybody was waiting for these buses or trams that were supposed to take us to the town, which was apparently a 15 to 20 minute walk if you ask one person, and a 20 to 45-minute walk if you asked another person. And it was bloody hot. So nobody was trying to do that walk unless you were ready for it or didn't care if you stroked out, I guess. And if you looked, there was a fence that you could walk around. It was, I don't know, maybe an eighth of a mile walk to a parking lot that you could see where there were taxis and Ubers waiting. Well, the gal that was in charge of the buses was trying to get everybody to go take the taxis and the Ubers. And it was €10 per person to do so. We were in a group of 7, and that's $70 to go a mile and a half. That's ridiculous. Even if you don't know what you're doing, you know that's a ripoff. So people started to kind of protest a little. A few people walked over. Other people were saying that was too expensive. And then before you know it, the price lowered to $5 per euro. And still not one tram or bus in sight. So now we're trying to decide whether or not to go. So we walk over to where the vans and Ubers are, walk up to this one van that can accommodate all of us. And he says that it's going to be €5 a person. We didn't want to pay that. And so I said, I'm not doing that when there's a van that's going to be coming and a bus that's going to be coming. And so our group walked back, and a couple of them stood back and decided to jump in the van, and that's what they did. And I guess I later found out they had to wait until the van filled up in order to be able to be transported into town. But we walked back. I'll be damned if I'm going to pay €10 a person or €5 a person when it's supposed to be free. And that was one of the included amenities that we were told about on board. But we get back, our group of 5 gets back, and we are noticing that no one has left. So now the group is up to a good 80 people, maybe a little bit more. I could be exaggerating. It was hot. I was frustrated. And by this time, we had been there a good 30, 45 minutes. And guys, still no bus or tram. And the bad part about it is that this lady, who by now I'm going to refer to as a clown, this clown is telling us every 15 minutes, it's going to be 15 to 30 minutes. So now we're there for 60 minutes and she's telling us it's going to be 15 to 30 minutes because there's so much traffic in town. We could see the town basically. So we were starting to feel like this is not right. Something is not copacetic. Whatever. It was not turning out to be a good morning. People were starting to get cranky. And then somebody in our group just said, please, let's just go take an Uber, my treat. So we all walked back to the Uber. And by this time, it's €5 a person. Well, remember, there's 5 of us and we're going a mile and a half. So I said in my best Italian, which is not great, that we did not want to pay €5 a person. How about €20 for the entire group? I told him it was only about a kilometer or 2 away, and it seemed way too much money for it to be €25. 20 seemed fair. He agreed, shook my hand, took the money, and we all gratefully jumped in the van. He jumped into the driver's seat, started driving us into town, and everybody was chatting and his phone rang, and I, instead of listening to the conversation, started listening to his conversation. Now, he's speaking in Italian, and whatever dialect of Italian, it was very Sicilian, very rushed, very harsh, and it seemed very emotional. I didn't know if it was the dialect or if he was emotional. But I could pick up here and there €20, 5 people, €20, 5 people. And him saying something to the effect of, okay. And whoever he was on the phone with, which by now I had concluded was the lady standing back at the tram station, because I then remembered that she kept picking up the phone when we were standing there waiting for our buses. So I deduced that it was she who he was speaking to, and I, in fact, was correct. We'll find out here in a few seconds, because no more than 5 minutes later, we ended up in a weird area of town, which seemed like he was dropping us off like in a weird area. But then again, we didn't know where we were. So for all we knew, it was the town center. So he, pulls over, throws the van in park. We open the door and start to get out of the van. And everybody is kind of putting on their hats and getting their stuff ready. And he comes over and confronts me rather aggressively, mind you, and starts rattling off in Italian that there are 5 people and therefore I owe him €5 more. And I rattled off in my Italian Spanish frustration that I'm not going to pay him €5 more because he had already agreed to the 20 before he drove us and he had already been paid. Well, he was not happy, and he is telling me that the lady back at the bus said that he has to collect €5 more. And I told him that that was too damn bad and that he needed to go get it from the lady back at the bus because we weren't going to give it to him. And he got in my face. Well, my husband is not liking this at all. But he doesn't really know what's going on except to see that this man is now getting a little bit too close for comfort. The other gentleman in our group also came up right behind my back. And by now everybody's wondering what's going on. Well, I was pissed. And by this time I get as close as I can to this man, pick my hands up in front of his face and scream, "Basta. Ya no más. No le voy pagar euro." I don't know what the hell I said, but I'm pretty sure it was, "Knock it off. I am not going to pay you the extra euro." I think I was pretty close, but I was pissed. And it was better than what I really wanted to say. Luckily, I don't know how to tell somebody off in Italian. But you know what? Fungu motherfucker who was trying to rip us off. And even more to the bitch that he was in cahoots with, who was having everyone on our cruise ship hang out and get sunstroke while they tried to bamboozle everybody into taking these rip-off Ubers and taxis. So that's basically what was going on. And I already had a really bad taste in my mouth. So we get off, and my husband ended up getting in the guy's face and telling him that he better not talk to his wife like this. And the guy eventually, scurried off and jumped back into his van, cussing on his way away. We were laughing. He went his way, we went our way. And that was that experience. Not great and not a good start to our trip in Pozzallo. But we were still going to make the best of it. Our plan was to have something to eat and to do some shopping and to see this lovely little port town that we were very excited about. So we came up to this one gentleman to ask him, where's the city center, where you could do the shopping and stuff? Because we seem to have been dropped off in, I don't know, there was one restaurant and a couple of other things, but really not much else. And so it was kind of weird. And he said, well, you got to walk up 1 block this way and 1 block to the left and on and on. So that's what we did. And we walked up this hill, which was in between 2 tenement apartment buildings. Super cute with the plants on the balconies and the clothes hanging from the clotheslines. Just everything that you would think it would be, right? But what it wasn't was a town. First of all, everything was closed. And it's a Friday, probably noon by now. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on. Second of all, there was a lot of residential and very little commercial. And third of all, they did not seem equipped, ready, or clued in as to what the hell to do with these tourists who were descending upon their village. So I don't know if they just weren't ready for us. I don't know if they just weren't a friendly town, but it was incredibly disappointing. At one point, one of the people in our group was looking for a magnet, collecting magnets from all the places we went. And I saw magnets through the window. So I walked in and I said, hey, we might be able to find your magnet here. And we walked in and they were selling hammers, nails, sinks, like kitchen sinks, bidets, faucets, and magnets. It was like somebody walked in and said, hey, dude, we're becoming a tourist town And so if you want to capitalize, you need to do something. And he went out and bought a board full of magnets and stuck it in his hardware store. It was so funny. I just found it comical and silly. We turned around, we walked out of there. Eventually, you guys, we just gave up. It was hot. We did not feel any love from anybody walking on the street. There was nowhere to do much more than get, I believe we got a couple of bottles of water, if I remember correctly. And somebody in our group wanted to see the water, which was about a couple of blocks down. So we decided, let's just walk up to the water, get an Uber, and head back. And that's essentially what we did in Pozzallo, Italy. Sorry, Pozzallo. I don't know if it was just the port town that we visited. Apparently, there's not much more to this town anyway. So I'm not really sure what we missed. But as far as my personal experience, not a good one. The group I was with felt the same way. And fun fact, not a fun fact, we ended up getting back to shore. To the boat. And the funny thing about it is that we were very easily able to negotiate a $20 taxi fare to come back. So there was definitely something going on. And not so fun fact, I marched right up to the concierge when we got back on the ship to complain about this experience. And as soon as I opened my mouth, the lady said, it was my day off and I was able to go to port today too. So I experienced the lady you're talking about, and I actually had a fight with her and a confrontation with her. So you can tell me all about your experience, but you are not the first person who has been up here complaining. We have had so many complaints about what happened today, and they have been reported to management. And I myself had a fight with this lady because I saw what she was doing, and I confronted her about the fact that there were no buses. She went on to tell me that when the bus finally got there, it seated about 14 people, and they had maybe one bus every hour to hour and a half. She apologized profusely and told me that, of course, they have to hire third-party services to coordinate with on these port excursions, or these port, when they dock at a port and they arrange transportation, whether it be, by land or by sea. And they have to kind of depend on what they're given. And sadly, this was a racket and they knew it. So she said you could spend the rest of your, you could come back this evening and complain to the management, and for sure it'll get there. But I can assure you that there are enough complaints that if you don't want to waste another minute thinking about this, it will be handled. So I thanked her, and I did see her documenting it. And of course, I was going to mention it in my customer satisfaction survey. And so why spend another minute, frustrated about this? I ran back to the stateroom, threw on my swimsuit, and headed to the pool, because why the hell not? Let's have another pool day. And let's double down and drink a lot of piña coladas, because there's nothing else to do. This afternoon ended up being really fun, really relaxing. We hung out by the pool for a little while. We walked around the ship for a little while. And then we went back to the stateroom for a little while and decided, let's go have a cocktail. And so we walked up to the pool bar, which was basically the only place you could get a cocktail before 3 o'clock. And we grabbed a cocktail, walked over into the forward part of the ship where we happened to be there as they were setting up for tea time. So we decided, cool, we'll have a couple of snacks, enjoy them here with our cocktails. And that's what we did. We met another couple. They were from Arizona, and the gentleman was waiting for his wife. So my husband and he were talking. I was just kind of enjoying the ambiance by this time. It looked like they were getting ready to leave early. All that to say, I think everybody had the same experience we did. And whereas we weren't supposed to depart until 7 p.m. and all aboard was at 6:30, I am quite certain that it was before dinner time when we were already moving. We were meeting our regular group at the Grand Buffet for dinner, and I was excited about that. But we had a couple days left, so I wanted to see if we could get into a specialty restaurant. And by this point in time, I realized that I had not had a dinner with my husband alone since we had been on vacation. So we thought, let's do a dinner for two, see if we could get a reservation at either Toscana or the Polo Grill. I wanted Toscana because we'd already been to the Polo Grill twice. But when I headed down to the concierge, she told me that there was a waiting list and there were no reservations available for two people. So that kind of broke my heart. Imagine how happy I was when we went back to our room at the end of the Pozzallo, Italy evening, and there was a reservation card for two people at Toscana the following evening. So we were going to get to go back to Toscana and experience their full menu. I'll tell you all about it. You guys, the summer series is winding up, but we still have a lot to talk about. Our next stop is Lipari, Italy, probably among my favorite stops. I'll talk to you all about that. And then we head to the Amalfi Coast for Sorrento and Capri and Anacapri. There's still a lot to talk about. Once we get off of the ship, we spend a couple of days in Rome. So we'll talk Rome and Vatican City, and that'll wrap up our summer series. Then we'll be back to talk about the Love for Hunt tell-all, which is, I'm recording this on Monday, and that is airing tonight. And we'll also get you caught up on the Real Housewives of Miami, which is now moved to Thursdays. And the Real Housewives of Orange County left us on a cliffhanger with Tamara Judge walking off the show. So we'll get caught up on that. And I am working on something that I'm very excited about. As the summer series finishes, I am cooking something new up for the fall. And we also have a couple of very exciting guests coming up. So I appreciate your time. I'm glad when you join me. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll be back very soon. And I will be here in the meantime, living on the verge.